throne speech, the government appointed a full-time Minister of Aboriginal Affairs because, and I quote, "rebuilding this relationship deserves a full-time minister." I'm glad to see that the government has now committed to having an all-party legislative committee work on Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. But the government doesn't need approval of a legislative committee to implement key recommendations such as Call to Action number 43, which calls upon federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal governments to fully adopt and implement the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People as the framework for reconciliation. Last month, the British Columbia government tabled legislation that, if passed, would make it the first Canadian province to implement UNDRIP. New Brunswick has a chance to be a leader here, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs commit to working with Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqiyik, and Passamaquoddy leaders to draft and table legislation to implement UNDRIP in New Brunswick during this legislative session?
The Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member opposite for the question. As you know, I traveled to New York City last year. I was at the UN for a week, meeting with Indigenous peoples all across the world, learning a lot while there. And Mr. Speaker, I guess what we're looking at in British Columbia is a very unique situation in Canada. That's the only province that's looking at this. So what I've undertaken is we're doing a technical review of what's happening in British Columbia, of the declaration. We're trying to understand the Aboriginal treaty rights and the peace and friendship rights. We're trying to understand the entire process from a technical standpoint, so then we can make an informed decision on that process, and I appreciate the question. Thank you.